Hello, everyone. Is that working? Yes, it is. That's better. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. My name is Benoît Georges. I'm a journalist from Les Echos, and I will be the moderator of this session. This session is about a quite controversial topic in the technology world. For the next 45 minutes, we're going to discuss about singularity. How much people from the audience know about singularity? Please raise hand if you do. So obviously I need to explain that first, and I will ask the people to join me. Let's say, and we'll discuss about the definition soon, singularity is defined as a future period during which the pace of the technological change will be so rapid and its impacts so deep that human life will be irreversibly transformed. Some people say it's already happening, some people say it will happen soon, some people say it's just something that will never occur at any time. So to discuss about that, we will have Rob Nail, which is the CEO and associate founder of the Singularity University, technology evangelist, and we'll talk about your organization. We also have Maria Rosaria Tadeo, which is specialized in ethical subjects. She's a deputy director of the Digital Ethics Lab from the United Kingdom, from Oxford. We also have one person specialized in robotics, Jérôme Monceau, which is the CEO and co-founder on Spoon, a robots and human-machine interface company. We're going to talk about that. And we have Olivier Mathieu, which is the president of The Camp, an entrepreneur which runs a place dedicated to create the future. You can go beside Rob if you want, so we'll be the four of us. Yeah, come over here. And to all you in the audience, you know that this session is supposed to be as collaborative as possible using some digital tools. So you have to use an application. You have all the instructions on your seats. And you will have to, with Bcast, an app called Bcast, you will have to you can use it to ask us questions during the conference. We will also ask you to answer to two questions. The first one is, do you think the singularity will occur one day? And the second one is, if it does, do you think it will be good for humanity? But to start with the definition, Rob, you run the Singularity University, so I guess you probably know about that. Do you agree with the definition I gave of a special momentum in the history of humanity? Do you agree with this definition, and do you think it will happen?
So, yes, I run Singularity University, and when I joined, one of the first questions I asked was, why are we called Singularity and University? Because we're not about the original definition of singularity, and we're not an accredited university. So other than that, the name is amazing.
You never thought about changing the name?
Actually, it ends up being very appropriate. So Ray Kurzweil, in his book, The Singularity is Near, he defined it as a period of time where the disruptive force of technology is so immense that beyond that period of change, it's really hard to imagine what our lives are going to be like. And it's not just about computers, and typically the popularized version of the singularity is when computer intelligence surpasses human intelligence. That's what everyone talks about. It's when the robots take over. That's what we're all afraid of. Ray, he defined it as these horizon shifts where we can look at every different technology area and the impact it's having on our lives, and it's accelerating at an exponential pace. And at some point, there's so much of a shift that we can't even foresee that future. And I absolutely believe that is happening, and it will continue to happen over time. And I don't think it's a single moment in time. It's just a massive period of transformation. That
people could have told that 200 years ago with the steam engine. It changed humanity, but nobody was. I mean, all the time technology has been changing things, and all the time mankind has been transformed. So why should there be like a God moment or like a specific moment? That's what kind of Ray Kurzweil says. Ray Kurzweil is a futurologist from the US. He did a lot in the field of AI, and he works currently at Google. And he's one of the co-founders of your organization. That's what he thinks. You think that? You think there will be a special moment?
I personally do not believe that what is happening today and what is going to happen in the future is any different than what's happened in the past. other than it's at an accelerating rate, and that we are going to continue to evolve and morph, and that the future is going to look a lot different than it does today. And it's not a God moment in my opinion, but I do know that what it means to be human in the future is going to be radically different. And how we live our lives is going to be radically different. And you could call that a singularity moment or period. It doesn't really matter as much to me. What matters to me mostly is the transition and what the future is that we're trying to create and the roadmap to get there. Because I do think there's some very difficult, very challenging transitions that we have to go through to create a positive future, that if we don't navigate that well, we'll see the greatest social unrest that humanity's ever seen, in my opinion.
Maria Rosaria, what do you think of this idea of a moment in time where everything changes?
Okay, so I'm glad that there is a more sensible, relaxed, steered away from the scaremongering sci-fi singularity things that people supporting singularity have been pushing for the past 15 years in a very responsible and damaging way. We agree, digital technologies are reshaping societies. They are reshaping the way we understand who we are as human beings, how we interact with each other, how we interact with the environment. This is going to change quite a bit our societies and our reality. The difference with singularity is that this moment is not about destroying, disrupting, putting us at the slavery position with machine overtaking us. And I don't even think that there is a moment of in which you can say, okay, up to this point is singularity, up to this point is machine overtaking us. It is a wave, it is a constant movement, a constant process, which we have to steer, which we have to shape into one direction or the other. It is a change that can bring opportunities and brings risks as well, and we have to steer it in one way or the other. But the risks are really much concrete, are in front of us. Risks of discrimination, inequalities, unfairness, lack of responsibilities. They are not risks about machine overtaking the humankind. And there is one clear distinction that I want to get at the beginning of this discussion as a philosopher. Artificial intelligence, in its very own definition, is not about creating machines that are intelligent. Artificial intelligence is about creating machines that can perform tasks as if they were intelligent. My dishwasher, a car that takes me from A to B, they do the same tasks that I do, but they don't use the same intelligence or any intelligence at all to use that task. So we're not building machines that have intelligence, consciousness, emotions, feelings. They are syntactics engine. They put together elements according to some rules. A syntactic engine never develops semantics. We are semantics machine. And this distinction has to be kept in mind when we think about the future of AI.
Before asking the specialist, Rob, I saw you not completely agree with this definition of artificial intelligence.
Well, I think we have a challenge in defining what intelligence is. I think that's the biggest issue. I think there's intelligence in most of those machines, and I personally, I started in robotics, and I feel like we're just biological robots in many regards. Sensor systems interacting with a physical environment.
That's very reductive for humankind. We tend to have a vision.
I know. It's hard.
You feel like that? I don't.
I do. And if you look at our cognitive biases and how you think and how you respond to your social media feed on Facebook, and you recognize how much you're actually not in control of, it gets easier to recognize that. I don't think it's that reductive, but I do think we are not in control of nearly as much as we think we do.
I would love to have the opinion of a specialist, someone who's been working in robotics for years and years. You worked with Aldebaran, which is now SoftBank Robotics. Probably many people know about the robots Now and Pepper. And now you develop a machine that communicates with humans. What do you think about that? Are we robots? Like the guy next to me?
I remember a researcher that was 50 years ago. His name is Peter Gray Walters, and he developed a small robot, like a turtle robot, and with 2 sensors and 2 motors. We call that a phototropic positive or negative robot. So it could be attracted by light or repulsing by light, or a mix between these two. And when you see this kind of robots, it's amazing to see how in life they could appears. Because if you get closer, the light is changing, the robot is going away. If you open the door, the robot will go under the table. And the fact is, when you see this kind of robot, you feel intelligence. But the robot is not intelligent in that case. It's just wire in between a sensor and an actuator. And it's reactive, but the point is, when we are talking about intelligence, it's more about our way to tell a story about what's happened around. And in our new robots, the name of this robot is Spoon.
You can have it on display outside. There's a demonstration of the robot today.
This robot is interacting on two layers. One layer is, let's say, animal interaction, or we can say animal intelligence. So it's social reflex, the way we have today. It can look you into the eye. It can react if you are moving too fast or if you are smiling. It's reacting to that. It do not have emotion. It do not have intelligence, but it have an appearance of feeling something, of reacting to you. And emotion, it's something about communication. It's not really something I feel. Perhaps I feel that, but I feel this in a way to make you understand my current point of view or my current way I representing things. So in one way, it could be very useful for machine to use this kind of appearance to make themselves understood by anybody around. And to conclude on that, our robot is not a personal robot, it's not dedicated to only one person. We do not want to augment one person. What we want to do is working at a collective scale. So making people living here or in this building or in this city having different way to interact together, helped by this kind of technologies.
Thank you very much. I would like to go back to Rob and to Olivier. You are advocating for a vision of future and that is quite optimistic. Although you say we are not very different from robots. I saw your panel. It was amazing this morning about how these tools can help build a better future. How should we talk people about the future? How should we help them foster our initiatives around the future?
I'm not sure exactly how to answer that, other than the future that I want to live in is an optimistic, positive one. I think we do ourselves a great disservice, and one of the challenges we have in the world, and I talked about this morning for any of you that were there, I apologize, but most of the media and Hollywood, when they forecast, when they show the story and vision of the future, it is more often than not a dystopian Hunger Games zombie apocalypse. Like, that is the only future that of the story of the future we're telling ourselves today. And that sounds like a horrible future to me. And I think we can change that narrative pretty dramatically and then build a roadmap to get there. So I think we are storytelling entities. I think that is how we process the world, is through story. And we should be telling ourselves better stories.
Olivier, you run a camp that's trying to, maybe you should explain a bit what's the camp. And we didn't talk a lot about the Singularity University. I assume people knew it. It's an organization that does sessions for learning about the future. Towards companies and governments most of the time, and sessions in Silicon Valley and sometimes in Europe also. The camp is kind of the same idea.
Yes, we call ourselves a training camp or a base camp. The idea is to really help people to get transformed. So we call ourselves change makers. So it's more about doing, like a do tank rather than a think tank. It's how we can keep control, transform, adapt ourselves, our mindset to prepare ourselves as individual and as organization to a brighter future. It's very important for us to think of the positive impact. So when it's about AI, for example, we'd like to know what are the potential positive impact of the AI rather than to think about the threat. Of course, we need to consider the threat, but I wanted to just come back to the comment explained by the philosopher in this roundtable. I think maybe I can understand that there is a difference between the definition of intelligence and acting as if I was intelligent or as if the machine was intelligent. But at the end of the day, maybe it's not a big difference in the day-to-day life. We need to consider that maybe the singularity definition should be where the difference between intelligence and or being intelligent and or acting as if will be almost the same. So maybe we won't be able anymore in the future to see really the difference between both. And maybe also another question is maybe singularity has already happened. So maybe it's already in the past. So maybe we are living in a virtual world where the machine have already the control on us. So the last question would be, what do we want to do? How do we want to feed the machine? Can we keep control on our future? And about algorithm and AI, I think I'd like this very small quote that everybody knows it's garbage in, garbage out. So we like to consider that we are responsible of what we're going to give to how we're going to feed the algorithm. So the material, how we can all the data that we will provide to the artificial intelligence, it's our responsibility. And so we could consider that maybe AI is a kind of child, we are the grown-up, and we are in charge of teaching the AI.
Actually, that's the way deep learning works.
Yeah.
You have to try to train the machines and the algorithm to do things. You wanted to react?
Yes, I was not jumping on the chair because I'm too polite for that, but sorry, but so the distinction between an intelligent and not intelligent being and the ability of distinguish between one and the other is at the core definition of the Turing test. Turing being the father of computation and AI. And he wrote this paper where he said, in year 2000, we won't be able to distinguish a machine from a human being from the way we interact with them. And this gave the rise to the so-called Turing test. So if you are interacting with a machine and you're not able to, like Google assistant calling up at a starting place and booking an appointment, you will not be able to distinguish whether it's a human being or a machine. Fine. In the same paper, Turing, the genius, the one who saved us from the Second World War, said, the question whether a machine is intelligent is a question that is not worth asking. Now, for the next 68 years, we have been destroyed the poor guy who might be dancing samba in the grave or something like that for the way we have destroyed this paper. But this is the point. It is crucial that we are able the point is not that we are not able anymore to distinguish whether it's a machine or not. The point is that we understand that that machine has not the intelligence that is qualified by a human being. Google Assistant able to book an appointment over the phone with an hairdresser is welcome. But there's one specialty in one context. Ask that machine to solve a problem in physics. Ask that machine to read a CT scan and diagnose cancer, which is something that also AI does very well. It won't do it. And it's important that we keep this in mind, because this idea that we anthropomorphize AI as a children, AI as a slave, AI as a dog, is just a misleading metaphor. We talk about the power of narrative. Well, let's stick to a scientific fact-based one.
That's the question of an artificial general intelligence, which no researchers knows today if it will occur or not. You want to add something?
Just to follow up on this,
sorry.
The head of the department in Oxford gave a very interesting brief at the UK Parliament, saying clearly that while there are advances in specific AI, generic AI is not happening, it's not occurring, there is no way forward there. So it's not that no scientist doesn't know where we're going. Some scientists have quite a crisp picture of what's ahead of us.
And I should add that if you ask many researchers in the top researchers of AI, most of the time they do exactly the same as you. I was with Jan LeCun from Facebook a few days ago, and he explained that intelligence of a machine was less than a rat or a cat today. You wanted to add something?
Yes. A few months ago, I was with a French thinker, and he told me that he was thinking that AI will be very good to replace a leader in big company. And here I have an issue with that, because for me there is no good decision. There's not only one way to judge a decision that has been taken. And when somebody takes a decision, especially if people are implied in this decision, it's not only about taking the right or the bad decision. It's as a human taking a decision that people can understand themselves into this decision. It's a human decision. It's probably wrong, but I think this is the best way to go. And I hope you can unbelieve that, you can believe that, and you can feel this decision into your body, into your way to be human, and intrinsically, artificial intelligence in that way could not exist, because it's just about a human that take a decision for other human that can understand them with their eyes, you know? You understand that?
Yeah. I should take 1 minute to remind that there's a polling thing going on the app. You had all the instructions. There are two questions. I don't know if we already have answers to that. The first one, do you think the singularity will one day occur? If you have some answers, you should display them. If you don't, it means not even enough person have answered. I didn't say to show the sponsors. Yes? 100%. Oh, wow. I don't know how many people answered. Maybe there's one. If you're not sure, if you still need question on what is singularity.
We are the only one to vote.
And the other one was, do you think it will be beneficial for humanity? It's changing right now. And for the beneficial, let's go for that. How do we make these technologies and these? That's a good point. Oh, there's not a lot of people. It's strange.
I think we have an algorithm issue.
Yeah, I think the robot took over the poll and we've got a problem like that. How do you make, anyway, we skip to the question, how do we make these technologies beneficial for humanity? That's a question that you write.
This is really about the camp DNA. It's really exactly, we want to answer this question, which is how we can find out a positive impact out of all those innovation, and AI is one of the major ones. But the question is maybe regarding AI, we should define better what is the general artificial intelligence compared to the narrow artificial intelligence, because definitely when you look at the narrow version, it's really a very specialized artificial intelligence which will be and which is already definitely much more efficient than human beings to accomplish faster and in a more efficient way a repetitive task, for example. So definitely this part can be very positive for the human beings, because we can replace all the all the hard labor by the robot or artificial intelligence, because they will be much more the AI or robot will be much more efficient than us. And I'm always surprised when you consider that to feed the algorithm or to learn to start the machine learning, you need to give many data to the machine, like many images, but I'm not a specialist, so you can explain that maybe much better than me. But you for example, if you speak about image recognition, which is one of my in my scope as also president of Rakuten in France, we do a lot of e-commerce, so we need to recognize images, which is very efficient for us for our web interface. And definitely the machine will learn how to recognize an image much better than the human beings, but it takes a long time to feed the algorithm, to feed the machine, so that, as you know, a child could recognize a cat after only one image, whereas it's almost impossible for the machine. You need to give and to feed the algorithm with thousands or millions of images to achieve the same result. But after that, when the algorithm works, of course, the machine will go much faster than the child. So it's what I call very narrow AI.
Yeah. And then we'll skip to some question to the audience.
Okay,
Go ahead.
The picture that has been given to the AI to have this idea of what is a cat is picture that has been taken by human who decide to take that picture that way. But in real life, I mean in robots, the cat is not only a picture, a group of pixels. It's something that is moving. It's a concept. It's something that could be told by somebody around. It's a tactile things. So the way the machine is producing this cat concept is not at all the same thing you have in your brain. Okay, the world is the same because an engineer somewhere decided to put the word cat on these categories, but the categories is not the same as the one you have in mind.
Thank you very much. I would love to have the time for a few questions on the audience. Please, if you have questions, raise your hand. And if you don't, we have questions that appear. One was, why is it actually called singularity, which is a kind of good question. Do you have the answer, Rob, as you run the Singularity University? Why this moment of progress and fast progress is called singularity?
Well, it's the physics term of a singularity is a sort of a horizon point, or where there's a horizon and beyond it, there's like a black hole is a singularity. It's thing where beyond it is totally transformed. It's a completely different paradigm, right?
That's kind of frightening.
Well, sure. But I don't think it has to be a bad frightening. It can be a good frightening, right? It's change, and change is scary, so that's why it's frightening. But it's not necessarily going to be bad. Like, I believe we're going to live into a Star Trek future, which is going to be extraordinary, where technology can unleash and unlock some of the most extraordinary things we've ever seen. And it's no different than what's always happened. Technology is humanity's wheel of progress, right? I think what's special about humans is that we are driven and are creative and can collaborate, which means when we're facing a problem, we invent and come up with a solution, technology or a process or whatever it is. And then that opens up a whole new horizon of opportunity and new problems that then we invent new solutions for. And on and on and on we go. What's missing at the moment is some definition and articulation of what that directionality is, where we want to go. And that's one of the things that we're trying to figure out how to support is more work thinking longer term horizons and then activating on the roadmaps to create those long-term goals. So the UN Sustainable Development Goals are probably the best articulated long-term big problems that, if they're solved, move humanity forward in terms of our currently agreed upon metrics of progress. And so what we want to do is create more startups, more engagements, more partnerships, more government policies that are solving the UN SDGs. That's a big part of how we think we're creating the future.
Thanks a lot. You want to add something?
Yeah, no, yes, I think that, of course, I believe that the innovation will not stop and it will keep moving forward and progressing. So maybe our responsibility is also not to think about Singularity University from a theoretical standpoint, will it happen or not, but we need also to try to train ourselves and to think about how we can anticipate, especially the impact on the society. Because, for example, future of work will be one of the consequences that will be really impacted by the AI, because, like, of course, the work is changing, the type of skills we need, the type of jobs will change, and one question which is at stake from now on is how can we maintain the welfare state? It's a more global and political question, but how can we maintain the welfare state in this kind of environment if we cannot provide enough jobs to everyone? That's a very important question. But for example, the job of the drivers, like Uber or truck drivers, or many drivers, will have an end quite soon, because of course the autonomous cars and trucks will take over the mobility, and it will be much more safer. So it's good for society, but we need to anticipate the consequences on the welfare states, how we live together, how we can have a dignified life in this kind of context.
I see some people raising hands, so please, if someone can give them a mic. There's someone in front here and a lady just there. Please introduce yourself, and if possible, if you have a question specific to one of the speakers, ask him to. It was just in the front. No, just behind. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julien de Sanctis. I'm a PhD candidate in philosophy and ethics. And, well, my question would be mainly for Rob Nail, but I think that everyone could answer these questions. We are speaking since the beginning as if technology with a capital T, was a living organism, like autonomous organism, but we just forget that behind technology there are some human beings that make it, actually. And I'd like to know what is your position, because isn't it a challenge made for humans? What is the place for humans as individual citizens? Don't you think that humans should participate to this great adventure, but not only engineers, but citizens in general?
Yeah, quickly, well, you can go first. Anyone. Well, go Maya Rosaria and then Rob, or whatever.
Going back to the previous question, Arvin John Good, working at Bletchley Park, defined singularity for the first time as this moment in which machines become so sophisticated and so superior that they can interact all together and become one single distributed source of intelligence. That's where the term comes from. To your question, very interesting. It brings me back to two references. I was in another panel this morning and I ended up quoting Churchill saying, Churchill said once, we shape buildings and then buildings shape us. And this is the same thing with technology. We design technology. We are at the front end. And then as at the back end, we are shaped by technology. So human beings are central. And this is how, keeping this in mind, we make sure that AI will harness good potential for society. When it becomes a humanistic technology, when we use it to enhance our characteristics as human being, when we use AI to make us flourish, when we use AI to enhance our capability to cure disease, to face challenges like curing Alzheimer or address climate change, when we use AI as a way to make society more cohesive, one together. So humanistic AI, I would call it. And this is not a new concept. Unfortunately, I'm not coming up with it. But a guy called Wiener came up with it in 1945. The human use of human being. That's where we get it wrong. Human are those who design AI, are those who can use it properly, underuse it, or overuse it. So you're perfectly right. Good PhD research, I guess. It is about human. Let's not forget about that.
Yeah. Thank you for your question. Rob, you can...
Yeah,
you can
I would just say quickly, there's an interesting narrative from Kevin Kelly, who was the former editor of Wired magazine. He wrote a book called What Technology Wants, and it sort of flips it, and it does basically suggest that technology is leading and we're following, but you know, it's a pretty thought-provocative thing, so I would encourage that. But absolutely, technology is just at our service to a large degree. The fear we have is that if it gets out of our control, then what happens? And that's why AI is so exciting to everyone, and that's why it's created such a controversy, is that we feel like we're going to quickly lose control of it. And I think that's possible, but not likely, because we do have time. We are the designers. We can create principles and create aligned incentives where these new things, intelligences, whatever they come online, they can be very mutually beneficial. We can. So one thing about humanity also is that we also fight each other a lot, and I think it's wired into our biology. I think we evolved as a species to fight over scarce resources. I think there's an alternate future that we can create as a future of abundance where we have enough energy and food and everything, but can we shift our thinking and our really biological imperative to allow for a future of abundance? That's a sort of philosophical question that I'm not sure about, but I think we can get there. I would say also just quickly, anytime someone says something will never happen, you should like pay attention. We have a saying at SU, the experts are exactly the people that tell you how something can't happen. And it's just until that very moment when it happens that it seems like a crazy idea.
Anytime someone says something never happened and angels die, or you know, a bell stop ringing, it is the difference between if and then. If then, logical operator, if X, then P. But if X is not, P is not. I agree with you. If the horseman of the apocalypse come here, we all screwed. Run. There is an exit here. Until then, I'm fine.
Okay. Just quickly, because we have other questions in the
very
audience.
quickly, there is an ethical question coming with the question you ask. I mean, until now, this AI is defined by a small group of people here in France or in California or whatever. It's, let's say, China, 1,000 people who are defining the way this AI should work. And then we will use that, and this AI will shape our world, in our industry, in our enterprise, in the place we are living. The question we are facing at Spoon is, can we make people, I mean workers, citizens, define their own AI, define their own way to behave? Because as a conceptor of robot, if I decide something inside my robot, if I decide the family should be like this, the city should be like that, then this way to approach the world will be multiplied all over the planet, and my ethics will be applied to anyone. But I think that every people should be one part of this ethical definition.
That's a very good point. Thank you very much. Lady in the audience, thank you so much for your patience.
No problem.
Can you introduce you and ask your question?
Is it on? Yeah. I am Lucia Burnik from Y20, the youth engagement group of the G20. And one of the topics we're going to be discussing with young delegates this year is future of work, and it's highly related to the artificial intelligence. Another topic is education. And just related to what you just said, one of the elements that we are trying to figure out is how do we prepare these people that now are 2 years old to live in a world where artificial intelligence is going to be more present in everywhere. And also, I have been noticing that every time we talk about artificial intelligence, there is a huge amount of philosophical thinking of how are we going to deal with this? Is it human? What creates value? Where is the value? How? And what I've noticed at the same time is most of the STEM policies lack a lot of philosophy. So how are we preparing this next generation when we're just focusing on the technical side and on the social side? Because there is a system of understanding innovation, a social technical system when you create the innovation, and that shapes you, and that's how the wheel rolls. So how do we prepare, and who has to be involved in that preparation? Thank you.
That's a very big question. I don't know if someone dares answering it.
Perhaps, yeah, it's a wide question. I just address one point about that. It's not only preparing the next generation, it's about preparing the technology to interact with anybody. But because there are some people who can have access to this technology, and some people who can't, because they do not have the knowledge, they do not have the capabilities. So the question is, how do we shape that technology so anybody, whatever they can understand, whatever could be their skills, can interact with machines?
Thank you very much.
Well, I couldn't agree more that there is more need for philosophical thinking. That's true. Let's get philosophy back into schools.
I think that's something. Yeah, I think that's something that's quite new from studying these subjects. There's a lot. There was not so much philosophical talk when the digital era started. When Google created, nobody was asking about ethical or philosophical questions. We should have. Maybe we should have. No, but as you mentioned, when we have this kind of discussion, because probably we talk about intelligence, we open to philosophers and to other stakeholders. And I think it's very important to have them on stage and to discuss them, and to have them also. I think you have some in your organization, or if you don't, you should, because that's very interesting to have them.
And just to conclude, no. And the reason why we need philosophy is because this technology, the digital altogether, take it as a broad umbrella, is different from any other technology we've seen so far. It's not just a tool. It's something that is changing reality, and with it, the way we're understanding it. It's not my own idea, but it's the idea of my boss, Luciano Floridi, that the digital as a cleaving power. So it decouples things that have been together for long. Take, I don't know, presence and location. I'm present here, located here, but at the same time I'm present, I don't know, on Facebook or on Twitter or somewhere else. And also it puts things that were separated together in a new way. So reality changes. And so if we want to prepare the next generation, but more importantly, if we want to have a society that is ready to make sure that the next generation can harness the value of digital innovation, we have to be able to understand these technologies, we are able to understand the changes that are bringing about, and then to shape on this understanding the regulations that we use of that. Because a regulation that is blind to technology is a regulation that hampers on technologies, and that's not good.
I know the
One final word about...
Yeah, this is a great question. I'll be super provocative. I think for the future, we need to throw away the degree and the degree mentality, focus on continuous learning, and teach our kids critical thinking. So yes, more philosophers who understand framing and how to dig into subjects, curiosity, and compassion and cognitive empathy, so you don't lose the human part of the equation.
Thanks a lot. That's a good...
Maybe Just as a closing comment, I understand it's a conclusion, but I'd just like to invite like all of you at the camp, because it's exactly what the reason why we created the camp is really to try to figure out and imagine what will be the future of work, what will be the future of working and living together. That's exactly the kind of workshop we want to organize. Of course, you are all my guests, and I will contact you and including yourself.
Thanks a lot, Olivier. Thanks to all the panelists for this brilliant discussion, and thanks to the audience for the questions. And I think they deserve an applause, definitely. Don't hesitate. They deserve it, clearly. Have a nice OECD forum and other fascinating panels during all the day. Thanks a lot.